Hi everyone, Matt from Snare here. Welcome to this technical video on how to configure data masking when monitoring SQL databases. We have a specific term for it, CID scrubbing, where CID stands for Client Identifying Data, and scrubbing is all about removing personally identifiable data from Snare logs to avoid exposing potentially sensitive information to people who should not have access to such data. Before we jump to the product and see how to configure CID scrubbing and how it works, let's just set the scene and explain why it is important. Let's talk about a typical application, which could be a CRM, ERP, business intelligence, or any other multi-user app storing lots of data. All that data will have to be stored in a database, and Microsoft SQL is still one of the most popular solutions used these days. The application is also linked to our user directory, so we can authenticate against the directory rather than having local accounts, and this could be done via Microsoft Active Directory, LDAP, or a cloud directory service, for example. Obviously, real-life applications can get quite complex with multiple application servers, web servers, maybe even multiple databases across failover clusters, but let's keep it simple. Now, whenever a user wants to use our app, they have to provide their credentials, which will be validated against the directory. If everything is okay, they will be granted access to the application, and if there is a problem, they will not be able to interact with the application. Users will have access to only specific sections of the data according to their permissions configured in the application. A well-written application will not allow direct access to the data to standard users. Additionally, our application should also generate access logs for tracking and troubleshooting purposes. Only database admins will have additional privileges to access the database directly for administrative purposes, which may include database maintenance, backups, migrations, and so on. This direct access poses a risk which we have to control and mitigate. Disgruntled employees, credentials theft, corporate espionage, malware, or compliance requirements are all valid reasons why we should monitor administrative activity on our databases. But that's fine. Snare Agent for Microsoft SQL can do their job and collect all administrative access logs so they can be forwarded to a SIEM solution, for example, to be monitored by our cybersecurity analysts. So far so good. You want your security analysts to monitor your databases and receive reports on suspicious activity. But the reports themselves may include sensitive information like names, addresses, or financial information. This means that access to reports and where they're stored should be managed as well. This can be a difficult and complex task, so this is why you may want to scrub sensitive data from your monitoring solution. Obviously, once suspicious activity is identified, designated senior analysts could use the anonymized logs to launch a detailed investigation, but your regular analysts would not have access to sensitive data. Also, you won't have to worry if your reports are sent over insecure channels or where they are stored to comply with GDPR regulation. The good news is this is exactly what you can achieve with the CID scrubbing functionality of Snare Agent for Microsoft SQL. Now we know why we want to enable CID scrubbing. Let's have a look how to enable it and how it works. For this presentation, I'm using our Snare Agent for Microsoft SQL with two objectives to monitor our demo database. I only have query tracking selected to limit the number of events we're going to generate, but normally I would recommend you tick all the relevant options. There are options to exclude certain users or groups, and normally I would recommend monitoring administrative accounts only, as regular accounts should be controlled by the application. And here is the CID scrubbing option enabled. The other objective is very similar, but has CID scrubbing turned off, and I assigned a different criticality level so it's easier to spot the difference. Now let's try to make an unauthorized access and modification of data in our database. I am using SQL Server Management Studio to run this query and modify the name and city for a specific record. This has worked, and we can now go back to Snare Microsoft SQL Agent and see what we have collected. On the Latest Events tab, I can find the events picked up by our objective with CID scrubbing turned off, and I can actually see personal information like the full name and address. If these logs are sent to a third party like a SIEM or an MSSP, I need to manage access to these logs to ensure I'm not in breach of GDPR. Luckily, I can see that all the personally identifiable information was removed from the logs generated by the other objective with CID scrubbing on. So there's no risk in sending these logs instead. As you can see, it is very easy and straightforward. CID scrubbing is a very useful feature which can help you with your regulatory requirements and strengthen your overall cybersecurity posture. Thank you and see you in the next video. Watch our entire Problem Solve series to learn more ways to easily glean additional value from your snare solution.